Hello, beautiful souls. It is Miranda here with Mariah, and we are back to go into her human design chart. If you didn't listen to Tuesday's episode, she was on Tuesday, and we went into everything that she brings with self-love. There was some funny questions in there. There's a lot of fun to answer, so make sure that you guys go back and listen to that if you didn't. So thank you again for being here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I love human design and I can't wait to hear your flavor because I know a scotch just enough to be able to breathe as a projector.
Yes. Okay. So let's start there. So what do you know? Because you are a splenic projector 2-4, single definition. So what do you know about that?
I know I need a lot of rest. I know I work best when I'm well rested. I can only take so much of humans and then I'm done. Like when I tap out, I tap out. I'm like, nope. And it's funny, my husband will look at me and he's like, are you done? I'm like, I'm so done. So often when I have really busy days, the next day has to be really quiet. And I know I can't do back-to-back meetings. That just doesn't serve me. I need to have at least a few minutes to go out and put my feet on the earth. I do know I need to wait for the invitation. Maybe not need to wait for the invitation, but it never feels right unless I have a very explicit invitation. Even joining silly things I go to CrossFit and I really wanted to join Barbell Club and I literally couldn't join until my coach was like, hey, you should come to Barbell Club. And I was like, oh, that's the stupid projector in me. I've been waiting for the invitation. So I know I need to wait. That just feels like everything just feels way more seamless if I have an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? I need to be horizontal for 2 hours before I fall asleep to dispel energy. And I know I need a lot of exercise to help dispel energy. So that's where I do a lot of CrossFit, a lot of walking, a lot of jujitsu, because without it, I'm backwards. So
do you happen to know, well, you're in a household with children, your husband. So do you happen to know what their types are?
Yeah. So my husband is also a projector. His projectorness is very different from mine though. And my girls are both generators. Okay. So that's makes for interesting weekends when Kevin and I are ready to veg out and my kids are like,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and with so much of that energy in the house, that's actually why you need alone time to kind of lay down and kind of release everything. And that actually maybe, I just wanted to point here that actually maybe why you need so much activity is because you have the generator children. Plus, I don't know how your husband and your chart kind of match up, but when they match up, you're a different energy. So if you are alone in your energy by yourself, you would not need lots of exercise.
That makes so much sense. Oh my God. Yeah, that's 100% right. I need so much more exercise these days than I ever used to. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And it's because you're kind of getting rid of all of that excess amplified energy that you're taking in from everybody else because you're very open. You only have 2 centers defined. So Mariah has the spleen defined and the will center, the heart ego center. And those are the only 2. And that is really where that channel is, the 44 to the 26. So this is the energy, the willpower is the energy that you have that actually gives you that to build your business, but it's consistent, but that doesn't mean it has to be consistent. It should be consistent. The willpower has this kind of pause. So if you trust your strategy, wait for the invitation, then what you say yes to within that invitation that feels good, you'll have the energy for because of the willpower. But there will be things that if you don't wait for the invitation and you say yes to them, you can still push through it because you have the willpower, but that can really burn you out and it could get you really sick. It has to be with the invitation that you'll always have that energy.
100%. Yep. And I often find I have a copywriter I work with. Some weeks I need to just meet with her because she's like a battery. She's a generator. I just need to have contact with her and I can pull energy from her and that'll get me through the week. Sometimes otherwise I'm just don't feel like it. I just don't have the umph. Mm-hmm.
And that is your energy, and it is the self-love to listen.
I know.
Like, as a self-love coach, you know you have to listen.
100%. It's so funny. And I think part of that self-love is like not feeling guilty that I just don't have this battery all the time. Like I just can't work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or what. I just can't. Like it's just, and it took me a long time not to feel guilty about that and to love me for me and all my projectorness and my wavy energy, because it's very wavy and up and down and not consistent.
And how do you feel about pressures? Because you do have the undefined head. Actually, you have a totally open head, and you have an undefined root. So these are the two pressure centers. How do you feel you handle pressure?
I think I handle it well. Everyone around me is like, oh my God, she's flipping out and gonna die. But for me, I'm like, no, I just have to, it's like I grit my teeth and just bear it and do it, and it's fine. Like sometimes I feel like I thrive, but it's definitely not my favorite place to be all the time. Let's just say that. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but.
Well, following your strategy will always help you with that. I'm just asking because like the root center is really a lot of, because the root center is adrenaline. It's adrenaline pressure. So when it's open, you're taking that and amplifying other people's root energy. You can put yourself under a lot of pressure to get like all the things done. And your list is like 200 things, and you can't go and live life until you have all those things done, and you have so many ideas in your head and you have to write them all down, or you're going to forget them. And so that's the type of pressure that I was kind of referring to.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense. So it's interesting because I am to the point where I can kind of tell if it's mine or not. Sometimes I don't pick up on it fast enough, and I'll like live in this space of like chaos and anxiety for like half a day, and I'll turn around and I'll be like, wait a second. Is this mine or not? And kind of have to sit with it and feel with it, like, is it mine or is it not? Is this somebody else's that I'm taking on? And sometimes it's sneakier. Like my husband's, I don't notice as much because I'm with him all the time. But other people, I can pick up on it faster that it's not mine, in that sense. So in that sense, I'm pretty good, unless it's my husband. And then it'll take me like a little bit longer. And that's wildly frustrating.
I can see that. Yeah. And I love that you can recognize when other people's energies, because it means you're in tune with yourself. You're not, since you're with your husband all the time, sometimes because you have an undefined G, sometimes you can think that you're being your authentic self, but you're really not. You're being what he's being, or what he's wanting you to be, but it's unintentional. So that's probably why you don't recognize that energy as much, because you're with him all the time. So you're kind of thinking, well, maybe this is my energy, or maybe it's not.
And I've been with him for so long. I've been with him since I was a teenager. So it's like, there's really like, hard to pull those apart.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny because in your undefined G center, which is the center for love, direction, and identity, you have the 10 defined only. It's the only one defined, and it's in the conscious level, and it's in Uranus, which is your teacher. You know, what you're here, it's your teacher, or what's different. And 10 is the gate of self-love.
God, that's wild. I love that. I literally have I used to be a teacher in public school. I have a master's in teaching.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's interesting because of what you shared previously with being a mom and not wanting kids, but yet it's really wanting kids. And then when you had kids, it was like, oh my gosh, did I want kids? But it was really that invitation for you to learn to love yourself and prioritize yourself. And it's the only gate activation within your undefined G center, which is just very interesting.
I never thought of it that way. I love that.
Yeah, there's always little fine tuning that you kind of, once you go into the chart again and pick it a little bit closer, you realize that there's a reason for everything, even if we were in a lower expression and didn't quite understand it. Now we get it.
Yeah, 100%. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to ask too, there's a couple of things that like popped up. The gate 44 is in your Pluto. Gate 44, you have that entire channel, so the 4426. But the 44 you do have twice, and it is really the fear of the past repeating itself.
Oh God, just open me up and just spill me out on the table, why don't you? 100%. Damn it.
Okay, so go into that.
Oh my God, that is my thing. 100%. Yes.
Well, Pluto represents where you grow and evolve.
Yeah. Well, it's so like Pluto is my goddess. So I'm massively spiritual. I literally have a picture of the goddess Pluto above my desk. I work with her a lot through crystals, through like all the things. Oh, and a lot of the work I do is plutonium because you have to get to know yourself, the nooks, the crannies, the darkness, all that Pluto is, right? What's really cool is Pluto, yes, god of hell, until you get through hell, then it turns feminine and it's unconditional love, right? So there's like this beautiful pathway there. But I don't want to make the same mistakes twice, or not mistakes, definitely not mistakes, but patterns. I'm all about like, oh, this is the pattern. Like, let's dive in. I love nothing more than like recognizing a pattern in my life and be like, oh, what am I going to learn today? Because we're not doing this again. But there's also like this fear around, oh my God, am I like, again, I thought I handled this and it's showing up again. Like, why? So yeah, I'm all about, maybe I wouldn't recognize it as fear. Like that is accurate. I don't think it's fear anymore. I think I look at it a little differently because I know I'm a co-creator in my life. And so I don't have to be afraid of repeating these things because, well, if I repeat them, then some part of me wanted that.
And I love that you said not afraid, because most of us, there's things that we think are wrong with us, or we think that we can't get rid of, right? So that may be something that you felt like you couldn't get rid of and you're afraid of it showing up again. But when you look at it in your chart and you see it's in Pluto and it's in the conscious and the unconscious, you know that it's part of your generational process. Like, it's always going to show up. It's learning about loving it and saying, oh, I see you. How I see this opportunity that I'm actually feeling fearful that this is going to show up. Okay, so how can I look at this with more love and have love and compassion? So it's never about being afraid. It's about opening and loving it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Anything you want to say? Because I see you looking up. So I don't know.
No, I know. That's like what I do when I'm like looking for information, like using my intuition, if you will. No, and it's like leaning into that fear. When you lean into the fear, it no longer is fear because you can explore it like for the truth that it is. I think fear is like a mask, it's kind of like anger. It's not the truth. There's always something more delicious underneath it to explore.
Yeah, fear is honestly, I feel like once a person can look at fear with love and look at fear with like, ooh, this is something for me to grow. Let's go. Right?
Like I always get excited because I'm like, ooh, there's something here. Like we can shift this, and how magnificent is my life going to be on the other side? I love that. And, I've gone through all the shit and the dark night of the soul. And so for me, it's easy because I can look back and be like, oh my God, that was awful. And now here I am, and look how magnificent my life is that I shifted this fear, that I did this. So for people who haven't recognized that yet, like I can see why it can be so scary. So I don't want to like diminish that, but like I've been through like, I feel like the depths of hell to get here today, so that fear, it's like, oh, let's do it. Like, let's dive in. I know it's going to be hard and challenging, but the other side looks so good.
So I love that you mentioned going like, first of all, being compassionate towards others, right? Of course, wherever you're at in the journey, always have love and compassion wherever you're at, even if you're just starting, even if you haven't started and it's just thinking, oh, maybe one day, you're on your path, love you where you're at, wherever you're at. And then also once you get to that space, when you're able to use that fear or use that awareness to actually move forward, to not let it hold you back, you do have the gate 38 a lot in your chart. So you have it, first of all, you have it in Well, first I'm going to go into Saturn. So you have it in the unconscious Saturn. So Saturn is more so your lessons, but it's unconscious. Okay. And then you also have it in the unconscious and the conscious Neptune. So 38 is the fighter energy. It is. And you have that. I don't think I saw it anymore. I think those are the 3 times. So in your lesson in life, in the unconscious, in Saturn, it's this fighter energy, which is like fighting for everything. Am I going to fight everyone? Am I going to lash out at everyone? Is it me against the world? All that stuff. And then it's coming back into the higher expression is fighting for the things that you truly love and believe in, that you just don't give up. You fight for it. You just know it. So you have that energy a lot in the unconscious, but you also have it in the conscious, in the Neptune. How does that energy resonate with you?
Oh my God, 100%. So resonant. And it's funny because I would never call myself a fighter. When I was younger, I was like, I am not. I'm like the kindest. I care about people. I make myself really small. And so but everybody was like, when I was dating, my husband's friends were all terrified of me. Like I was like the scariest motherfucker around. I'm like, I'm like 5'2", 100 pounds. Like I'm really not that scary. Oh, but people can feel it. Like they feel it, right? Now I lean into it. Like now I'm like, I love myself. I love that I'm edgy. I'm a fighter. Like, yeah, I'm going to be quiet until like I'm not quiet. And then then you're going to hear me roar, and I'm going to stand up for people, and I'm not going to let you push me around. I'm not going to let you be a dink. But that comes from a place of love, right? It comes from a place of like, no, you're not being safe, or you're stepping on somebody else's toes, or this isn't okay. But also like, I just like to be a little.
Oh, there's so much in there too. So in Chiron, which is always this underlying energy, although there is a heightened aspect between 48 and 52, but it's still underlying. This is like the wounded healer. Yeah. So in your Chiron, you actually have the energy of provocation, which is provoking things. So of course you're going to have that energy.
Yeah, that's totally me. And I've only recently allowed myself to lean into that energy. I would say in like the last probably 6 months, I've finally like loved myself enough and healed enough and like come into my own, right? Because this is a journey, and I've worked really hard to get here, but now I'm like, forget, I'm gonna do all the things, I'm gonna wear the crop top, I'm gonna wear the trashy t-shirt with the kind of provoking, scandalous saying, like we're going to listen to the kind of music I want to listen to, even little things like that. You know what I mean? And I love it now. And I feel like people are seeing me for the first time, and they're like, oh yeah, I like Mariah. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's like, well, cause that's who I am. And I don't do it in a way that's like, it's just me. And I'm like done hiding. I think that's what's really fun. And whatever way that looks like, and I'm sure there'll be more to come, because I'm just tapping in, just now feeling safe enough to tap into that.
So I have a question too about your gate 52 and stillness. So gate 52, you have in the conscious and the unconscious. You have it in Jupiter in the conscious, and then you have it in Chiron in the unconscious. So the Chiron I just mentioned was like the wounded healer. It's this underlying. So the wounded healer for you is provocation and putting yourself out there, as well as stillness and having the ability to sit still while you work on things. And then you also have it in Jupiter. So this is the Jupiter's like the gift, the stillness. You do not have the other part of this channel, which is the 9. So the 9, when the 2 channels come together, what it does is it brings the energy from one center to the next center, and it flows. But when there's not another channel that connects it, sometimes it's just like hanging out there with like no help. Like the 9 is focus. So the 9 with the stillness and the focus is what happens is you end up being still and you have that focus and they support one another. So I'm wondering, how does stillness resonate with you? Is it difficult for you? Have you found a way to really tune into it? Because it is your Jupiter, so it's one of your gifts.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Only recently I've been able to tap into that stillness, right? Because before, when I needed stillness, I'd have to be doing something like reading or something else. Like I wasn't like meditating. I couldn't do it for, I didn't last very long. But now as I'm creating and I'm finding that the stillness is like more swirling and it doesn't feel so stuck. Like I found a way to take the stillness and allow it to be messy and be swirly and be quiet and pull the pieces together. Because I like to in the stillness, I find is when I can be like, I can pluck this and that and that, and then look at the things. And then in the stillness, I can find the patterns and the connections. And I'm like, oh yeah, here's my magic. And so, but that hasn't been easy. So that makes sense if only half my channel of stillness is open. And it also, I find that I get my best intuitive hits when I'm in the stillness, but it almost takes me like a ritualistic approach to get there. Like I have to have a notebook, or I have to be sitting, or I have to be like, okay. It's almost like I have to collect the stillness, if that makes sense.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, because for any of you out there that has the 52 and you don't have the 9, that is I could actually understand and feel that, because I have the whole channel, the 952. So for me, it's very hard to understand having that stillness, but not having the focus, because I have that, right? So I love how you said like the swirling stillness. I love that, because I can feel that. It feels like I can totally understand that. And I'm sure for those that are listening, they can understand that too. So thank you for that. That was awesome. Yeah.
Another like cheat to get there for me, at least, is a little snack. And I know that sounds crazy, but when I need stillness, it's almost like a little sweet treat or something munchy allows me, I don't need it anymore, but it would allow me enough focus to then collect.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like another cheat code that I used to use. I don't need it so much now because I think I've got other tools, but that used to be really helpful too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we end up closing, I would love to give you the opportunity to ask if you have a question at all about your chart or anything like that. I always love to give that space if there's a question that's nagging.
Yeah. So, I don't even know, like, I don't understand human design charts at all, but what's really drawing my attention is like this green triangle at the top. What is that magic?
I love that you are drawn to that, because that's so awesome. Okay. And so everybody, the green is ajna. It's the ajna. And the reason I love that you ask that is because it is undefined for you, but it houses your gate 47, which is your conscious sun. So your conscious sun is the energy that you're here to be. That's the energy you're here to be, to bring the world. When you're grounded in your essence and who you are, our purpose in life is not what we do, it's who we here to be. And this space is what houses that conscious sun for you. Plus, you also have the 47 in your unconscious moon, which your moon is what unconsciously motivates you. So it's interesting because you have it in the unconscious moon and the conscious sun. And it's both in the 2 line, which is the harmony way kind of introspective kind of energy. So the 47 is truly about your mindset. That's what you're here to bring, the mindset, the positive, shifting your mindset. And that's what you're here to support people on, as well as your Chiron. Chiron provocation is also what you can support people on. That's part of your energy of what you're here to bring. And as a little side kind of tip for you, the Mercury is in the 48, which is depth, which is what you talked about in the previous podcast. So Mercury represents your communication, what you're here to talk about. So you truly are here to talk about the depth, the well. You said well in the last podcast, and I was like making these notes because that's what you're here to really talk about. And then the unconscious, you're here to talk about fulfillment and actually being very authentic. So if you think of all those little tidbits, the ajna, the 47, the mindset in the conscious sun and the moon, right? Your Chiron, as far as in provocation, your Mercury in 48 and talking about depth and authenticity. That's learning about yourself, right? And that's everything that you bring. That's what you do. That's what you care about. That's what you want to help support people in.
Yeah. So wild. Oh, I love it.
Awesome. Any other questions with that whole big spiel that I just like blew out?
No, I think that's all my little brain can handle today. I love it. Oh my gosh, so cool. Oh, awesome. It's like all of me just sitting right there. It's wild.
And that's the part that I truly appreciate for what I do. I feel like when I'm able to see a person's chart, I actually get to see the real person. I don't see the conditioning. I don't see I can see it. I can feel the patterns. I can see the conditioning because I've been doing that work, right? But I get to see the real person, and it's such a privilege to be able to do that and to have the opportunity to be so intimate with people that I've never met.
I love that.
So I wanted to say thank you for being vulnerable, letting me see your chart, going deep into it. I hope there was something that you took away from this. And when the podcast comes out, I hope that you dive in and kind of like write down the things, or I can even send you the video, or maybe I'll put it on YouTube. Like I mentioned, I'm putting it out there now.
Now you have to do it. So good.
But I appreciate you. And thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.